I am Maria, 29 years old, and this morning my phone lit up with 18 missed calls. But here's the twist, I wasn't the black sheep calling for help. I was the golden child, and my family was panicking because their perfect daughter had finally cracked. I stared at the screen, my mother's last voicemail still echoing in my head. Mija, you can fix this. You always know what to do. We need you. For the first time in my life, I didn't want to be needed. If you're watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you're from, hit subscribe, and stay with me as I explain how being the perfect child nearly destroyed my soul. Growing up in Miami with my parents, Carmen and Roberto Santos, looked like a fairy tale from the outside. Our modest but immaculate house in Kendall showcased my mother's restaurant success and my father's construction achievements. The Santos family was rising, and I was their crown jewel. 2.5 years separated me from my older sister Elena, but it might as well have been two different worlds we inhabited. From my earliest memories, I was the sunshine child. While Elena struggled with math, I brought home straight A's and teachers' notes about my exceptional behavior. When Elena went through her goth phase at 14, dyeing her hair black and wearing all black, I remained the sweet girl in pastel dresses who helped at Mom's restaurant after school. The praise flowed endlessly. Maria got another award. Maria never gives us problems like some children. Thank God we have one daughter who makes us proud. The expectations were intoxicating at first. Every achievement brought hugs, celebrations, and that warm glow of being special. By age 10, I was the designated translator for important business calls at Mom's restaurant. By 12, I was helping Dad review construction contracts. Elena, meanwhile, was constantly grounded for poor grades, arguing with Mom, or coming home late. I learned early that being perfect meant being loved, and being imperfect meant disappointment. High school crystallized our roles completely. I maintained a 4.2 GPA while serving as student body president and captain of the debate team. My college application essays wrote themselves leadership, service, academic excellence. Elena barely graduated, spent most of high school in detention, and shocked everyone by getting pregnant at 17. The night she told our parents, I sat on the stairs listening to the screaming match that followed. How could you be so irresponsible? Mom's voice cracked with tears. After everything your father and I have sacrificed, this is how you repay us. At least I'm not pretending to be perfect like your precious Maria, Elena shot back. Maybe if you actually paid attention to me instead of worshipping her, you'd know I've been struggling. I felt a strange guilt hearing this, but it was quickly overshadowed when Dad knocked on my door later. Mija, we're so grateful to have you. You give us hope that we did something right. The validation was addictive. Elena moved out after graduation, married her boyfriend David against our parents' wishes, and became the family cautionary tale. Every conversation somehow circled back to comparisons. Elena's working at Target now. Thank God you're going to college. Elena's having problems with money again. We're so proud you're responsible. The message was clear, I was everything she wasn't, and that's exactly what our parents needed. College at University of Miami felt like a continuation of the same performance. Marketing major, dean's list every semester, internships at prestigious firms. I lived at home to save money, which meant 4 more years of being the perfect daughter. Elena's struggles continued: divorce, remarriage to David after they worked things out, a series of jobs she couldn't keep. Each of her setbacks seemed to highlight my successes even more brightly. My first real job at Stellar Marketing in downtown Miami was everything I'd worked toward. Entry-level account coordinator, but at a firm that handled major hospitality clients. The salary wasn't huge, but it felt enormous compared to my parents' restaurant income. I moved into a small apartment in Coral Gables, 15 minutes from home, close enough to help but far enough to feel independent. Success came quickly, maybe too quickly. Within 3 years, I was managing major hotel chains' social media campaigns. By 25, I was promoted to senior account manager. The work felt natural. I'd been managing impressions and exceeding expectations my whole life. My parents beamed with pride at every advancement. Our Maria, so successful. God blessed us with such a perfect daughter. The first crack appeared when I started dating Alex, A lawyer I met through work connections. Handsome, successful, from a good Cuban family, everything my parents had dreamed of for me. They loved him before I was sure I did. He's perfect for you, Mija. Smart, ambitious, respects family. When will he propose? Mom's not-so-subtle hints became weekly interrogations. Alex did propose, at Mom's restaurant during Sunday dinner, in front of the entire family. The ring was beautiful, the setting was romantic, and I said yes because saying no would have disappointed everyone. But lying in bed that night, I realized I'd never asked myself what I actually wanted. I'd been so focused on being what everyone expected that I'd forgotten to discover who I was. The engagement period was a whirlwind of wedding planning dominated by my mother's vision. A church wedding, of course. Your Prima Rosa's reception hall is perfect. We'll invite all the family. Every decision felt predetermined, and my few attempts to suggest alternatives were met with hurt looks and guilt. I've dreamed of this day since you were born, Maria. Don't you want your family to be happy? During this time, Elena and I barely spoke beyond polite greetings at family gatherings. She seemed almost allergic to my success, leaving rooms when conversation turned to my job or wedding plans. I told myself she was jealous, but a part of me wondered if there was something else behind her distance. At 28, I was promoted to Director of Client Services, managing a team of 12 and overseeing million-dollar campaigns. My salary had tripled since college, and I finally felt ready to buy my own place. I found a beautiful condo in Brickell with floor-to-ceiling windows and a stunning bay view. When I mentioned it to my parents, their reaction surprised me. Mija, that's wonderful, but condos are such a big investment, Dad said carefully. What if we co-sign? It would help your interest rate, and we could help with the down payment. I didn't need help with the down payment, but their eagerness to be involved felt like love. We opened a joint investment account, pooling my savings with theirs to maximize our buying power. They insisted it was smart family financial planning. I trusted them completely. The closing went smoothly, and moving into my dream home felt like the culmination of everything I'd worked toward. Modern furniture, professional photos for social media, dinner parties with colleagues. I was living the life I'd always been expected to live, and it looked perfect from every angle. But perfection is exhausting. Every day required the same flawless performance at work, with Alex, with family. I had panic attacks whenever projects faced challenges, terrified of failing for the first time. My friendships felt superficial because I couldn't risk showing weakness or uncertainty. Even my relationship with Alex was more about maintaining an image than genuine intimacy. The wake-up call came on a Tuesday morning 3 months ago. I was reviewing my financial statements when I noticed irregularities in our joint investment account. Large withdrawals I hadn't authorized, payments to entities I didn't recognize. My first thought was identity theft. I called the bank immediately. Those transactions were authorized by your co-account holder, Mr. Roberto Santos, the representative explained. All the paperwork is in order. My hands shook as I requested detailed statements for the past 6 months. The withdrawals painted a devastating picture: $75,000 gone in regular amounts to various casinos throughout South Florida. My father had been gambling away our shared savings. I sat in my beautiful condo, surrounded by everything I'd achieved, feeling like my entire world was built on lies. The family that had celebrated my success had been stealing from it behind my back. That evening's family dinner was already scheduled, a weekly tradition I'd maintained despite my busy schedule. I arrived with printed bank statements in my purse, still hoping there was an explanation that wouldn't shatter everything I believed about my parents. Mom served my favorite arroz con pollo, chattering about wedding preparations and restaurant business as usual. Dad asked about my latest campaign, genuinely interested in my work. Elena and David were there too, an unusual occurrence that now seemed significant. For 30 minutes, we played the familiar family roles: proud parents, successful daughter, problematic sister. Finally, I placed the bank statements on the table next to my untouched plate. Can someone explain these withdrawals to me? The silence was immediate and profound. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Dad's face went pale, and he removed his glasses with trembling hands. Elena looked confused at first, then her expression shifted to something like recognition. Mija, Dad began, his voice barely above a whisper, I can explain. $75,000, I said, keeping my voice steady. From our joint account. To casinos. Without my knowledge or consent. Mom started crying immediately. We were going to pay it back, Maria. Your father just had some bad luck, but he was going to win it back. Bad luck? I repeated, incredulous. This shows regular withdrawals over 6 months. This isn't bad luck, it's systematic theft. Elena spoke up for the first time. Jesus, Mom. Dad. How could you do this to her? I was shocked to hear defense coming from my sister, the family disappointment. Her outrage on my behalf felt more genuine than my parents' tears. You don't understand the pressure we're under, Dad said, his voice gaining strength. The restaurant, the house payments, your wedding expenses. I thought I could fix everything with one good night. My wedding expenses? I stared at him. I never asked you to pay for anything. But we wanted to give you the perfect wedding, Mom sobbed. You deserved the best, and we couldn't afford what we wanted to give you. Your father thought. I thought I could make it right before you noticed, Dad finished. You're so successful, so smart with money. We knew you'd be disappointed in us if you knew how much we were struggling. The conversation continued for 2 hours, but the core message never changed. They had stolen from me, justified it by their love and my success, and expected me to fix the problem because I was the responsible one. The daughter who never let them down. Elena stayed after our parents left, helping me clean dishes in my pristine kitchen. I'm sorry, Maria, she said quietly. I know how much you trusted them. Did you know? I asked. She shook her head. I suspected something was wrong with their finances, but not this. They've always been so focused on keeping up appearances, especially after you became successful. For the first time in years, we talked honestly. Elena revealed how suffocating it had been to grow up as the disappointing daughter, how every mistake was magnified and every small success overlooked. But she also shared something that stunned me. I always envied you, but I also felt sorry for you, she admitted. You could never just be yourself. Everything had to be perfect, everything had to make them proud. I got to mess up and still be loved eventually. You never got that freedom. I started therapy the next week with Dr. Patricia Morales, a family therapist who specialized in Latino family dynamics. In her comfortable office filled with warm colors and family photos, I began unraveling the golden threads that had bound me since childhood. Tell me about a time when you disappointed your parents, she asked during our second session. I sat silently for several minutes, genuinely unable to recall a single instance. Not because I was perfect, but because I had never allowed myself to fail in their eyes. That's not healthy, Maria, Dr. Morales observed gently. Children need to experience disappointment and still feel loved. It's how we learn that our worth isn't conditional on our performance. The sessions became a safe space to explore questions I'd never allowed myself to ask. Did I actually enjoy marketing, or had I chosen it because it impressed people? Did I love Alex, or did I love how our relationship looked to others? What were my own dreams, separate from my family's expectations? Meanwhile, the practical crisis demanded attention. My parents were facing potential bankruptcy, and the restaurant was struggling. The old Maria would have immediately stepped in with a rescue plan. The new Maria, guided by therapy, decided to approach things differently. I arranged a family meeting at Dr. Morales' office, insisting that all 4 of us attend. The session was brutal and necessary. My parents had to confront how their favoritism had damaged both their daughters. Elena shared years of resentment and pain. I revealed how the pressure to be perfect had cost me authentic relationships and self-knowledge. I'll help with the immediate financial crisis, I told them, but with conditions. Dad enters gambling addiction treatment. We close all joint accounts. And we all continue family therapy for at least 6 months. The hardest part was my next announcement. I'm also postponing the wedding. I need time to figure out what I actually want, not what everyone expects me to want. Mom's sobs filled the office. But Mija, you'll lose such a good man. What will people think? I don't know, Mom. And for the first time in my life, I'm okay with not knowing. The weeks that followed were the most challenging and liberating of my life. Alex initially tried to be understanding, but his patience wore thin when postponement began looking like cancellation. Our relationship, built on mutual performance rather than genuine compatibility, couldn't survive my authenticity crisis. "You're not the woman I proposed to," he said during our final conversation. "You're right," I replied. "I'm trying to figure out who I actually am." I took a leave of absence from work, something that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. Using my savings, I traveled alone for the first time, 2 weeks in Costa Rica, hiking volcanoes and practicing Spanish with locals who didn't know about my perfect reputation. When I returned, Elena and I began rebuilding our relationship. She taught me things I'd never learned: how to fail gracefully, how to be vulnerable, how to ask for help without shame. In return, I helped her recognize her own strengths and encouraged her to pursue the graphic design career she'd abandoned years ago. "You know what's funny?" she said during one of our new weekly coffee dates. "I always thought you had it all figured out. I never realized you were as trapped as I was, just in a different cage." The family therapy sessions slowly began healing decades of dysfunction. Dad entered Gamblers Anonymous and began the difficult work of recovery. Mom learned to love her daughters for who they were rather than what they achieved. Most surprisingly, Elena blossomed when she stopped being cast as the failure. 8 months after discovering the theft, I made my most radical decision yet. I quit my prestigious marketing job to start my own creative agency, focusing on small businesses in the Latino community. The pay cut was significant, the security non-existent, and my parents were horrified. "Mija, you're throwing away everything you worked for," Mom pleaded. "No, Mom. I'm finally working toward something I actually want." Elena became my first hire as lead designer, her artistic talents finally recognized and valued. Working together, we discovered we made an excellent team. Her creativity balanced my business sense, her authenticity complemented my diplomacy. The first year was challenging. There were months when I couldn't pay myself, clients who didn't pay on time, projects that failed despite our best efforts. But for the first time in my life, I was failing forward, learning from mistakes instead of being paralyzed by them. My parents struggled to adjust to having an imperfect daughter. When I told them about a client who wasn't satisfied with our work, Dad's first instinct was to offer solutions. "Don't worry, Mija. You'll figure it out. You always do." "Maybe I won't figure it out this time, Dad. And that's okay." The look of confusion on his face was heartbreaking and necessary. The breakthrough came at Elena's graduation from the local community college, where she'd finally completed her graphic design degree at 31. As I watched my sister cross the stage, I felt pure joy, not the performance joy I'd known as a child, but genuine happiness for someone I loved. Our parents were there too, clapping enthusiastically. After years of dismissing Elena's artistic interests as impractical, they were finally seeing her achievements clearly. "I'm so proud of both my daughters," Mom said at the celebration dinner, and for the first time, it felt equal. A year and a half after that devastating bank statement discovery, I attended Elena's first gallery showing featuring her digital art. The opening was small but well attended, and I watched my sister interact confidently with potential buyers and art enthusiasts. "Remember when you thought you were the successful sister?" David, Elena's husband, teased me gently. "Now I realize we both had to learn what success actually means," I replied, watching Elena explain her artistic process to a collector. My agency was growing steadily, built on authentic relationships rather than impressive credentials. I'd started dating Miguel, a teacher I met through volunteer work, someone who knew nothing about my perfect reputation and loved me for exactly who I was becoming. The most significant change was in my family relationships. Sunday dinners were smaller now, sometimes just Elena and me, sometimes including our parents when they were respecting our boundaries. The conversations were real, we shared struggles as often as successes, doubts as frequently as achievements. "I owe you an apology," Elena said during one of these dinners. "I resented your success, but I never realized how much it cost you to be perfect." "I owe you a bigger apology," I replied. "I bought into the narrative that you were the problem child." I never defended you or questioned why everything was always your fault. Our parents were learning too, slowly and imperfectly. Dad's gambling recovery was ongoing, marked by setbacks and small victories. Mom's restaurant was stabilizing with better financial management and Elena's design work on the branding. Most importantly, they were learning to love both daughters without conditions or comparisons. The final piece of healing came when I was able to fail publicly and survive it. Our agency lost a major client due to a campaign that didn't deliver results. The old Maria would have been devastated, taking full responsibility and working frantically to fix everything. The new Maria acknowledged the failure, learned from it, and moved forward without shame. "I'm proud of how you handled that setback," Elena observed after I'd shared the story over coffee. "I'm proud that I finally know how to handle setbacks at all," I laughed. 2 years after that morning of 18 missed calls, I woke up to my phone buzzing again. This time it was Elena, calling with excitement about a gallery that wanted to feature her work in a group exhibition. Her joy was infectious, and I realized this was what healthy family relationships felt like, celebrating each other's successes without competition or resentment. My agency now employs 6 people, including 2 other family members from the community who'd been overlooked by traditional marketing firms. Elena's art career is flourishing, and she's considering teaching design classes part-time. Our parents still sometimes slip into old patterns, but they catch themselves more quickly and apologize more readily. Miguel and I are planning to move in together, a decision I'm making based on my own feelings rather than family expectations or social pressures. Some days I miss the certainty of being perfect, the clear rules and guaranteed rewards. But most days I'm grateful for the messy, uncertain, authentic life I'm building. Have you ever felt trapped by others' expectations of you? Sometimes the hardest prison to escape is the one built from praise and high hopes. The golden cage looks beautiful from outside, but it's still a cage. Learning to disappoint people you love and discovering they love you anyway might be the most important skill anyone can develop. I'd love to hear your experiences with perfectionism and family expectations in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more journeys of breaking free from limiting roles and discovering who you really are. Remember, sharing these stories helps others who might be struggling with similar challenges. Thank you for being part of this conversation, and remember, you are worthy of love exactly as you are, imperfections and all. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let people see who you really are instead of who you think they want you to be.